What is up, and welcome to LA Football Network on Radio Row. Will Decker with Jamal Madney. We're going to be doing a Draft is in Session, a special episode too. I mean this, I don't listen to a ton of draft content, but one of the guys that I really pay attention to is Mike Renner at PFF. He does an awesome draft show with Austin Gale there. Mike, what's going on, brother?
Not too much, man. I'm excited. It's my first time back in LA since, I don't know, like 4 years. I haven't been here in a while, so good to be here.
The pandemic kind of ruins a lot of things, but we're honored to have you back in Los Angeles, man. Any fun events you're going to this week that you're excited to check out?
Honestly, no. That's the kind of the depressing thing. Is I didn't get invited too much, dude. It's sad. I'm not a big enough name. I'm not, apparently, but no. I really haven't, like I say, gotten invited.
Well, man, we're having a Super Bowl party. You're more than welcome to come through if you want, Mike. We'll definitely have you there. NFL Draft, it's coming up. It is the talk of the town, especially after Super Bowl week. That's kind of what we transition into. Senior Bowl just happened this past weekend, and a lot of names kind of stood out among that crowd. I want to hear from the professional yourself, Mike. Who are some of the names that you looked at that really raised their stock after the week in Mobile?
I think the biggest one to me that really kind of opened my eyes and was like, yeah, this kind of confirmed what I already thought to a degree, but also then went above and beyond, was Devontae Wyatt, the Georgia defensive tackle.
Wow.
He's the best defensive tackle in this draft class.
Wow.
You watch the Georgia broadcast, and they're zooming in on Jordan Davis, talking about how big that dude is. He's massive. But Devontae Wyatt's a more projectable NFL defensive tackle, in my opinion. That guy is going to test off the charts at the combine, freak athlete. And I think the biggest thing I was worried about with him was on tape as a pass rusher at Georgia, it's scheme first there at Georgia. There were a lot of stunts, a lot of blitzes where he just has to play his role. He didn't get to go one-on-one and beat the guy in front of him. And that's all he did at Senior Bowl. And he only lost one rep in the one-on-ones all week. That guy was dominating in the one-on-ones as a pass rusher.
Wow.
So that's what you chase at DT. I mean, Jordan Davis, he's a sure thing against the run, but is he ever going to impact the passing game? I don't know. But after that week, Devontae Wyatt, Georgia defensive tackle, he's DT1, the PFF draft board.
Where do you think Wyatt, was he a fringe first rounder maybe before that? Do you think he solidified his first round status after that week?
I think he can sneak into the first round because it's not a strong defensive tackle class. You don't have a lot of guys that can, like I said, impact the passing game at that position. And everyone's looking for that. Everyone wants that interior pressure. Everyone wants that Aaron Donald. And he's not Aaron Donald, but the guys that can create that level of pressure look like Devontae Wyatt. They are that level athletically, and they are that gifted with what they can do from a pass rushing toolbox perspective. So he has the physical tools to be that guy. Obviously isn't quite there, but I think he is going to go high because of it.
I want to talk about a guy that was a former Georgia Bulldog. He actually transferred. That's how loaded their defensive line was. Yeah. Jermaine Johnson, man. And the thing I love about this guy, when you throw on the tape, he can beat you with a variety of different moves. He can do the spin move. He can bull rush. You can do whatever. But it's how he plays laterally, how he's aware of the run in the backfield, the screen passes. He had 18 tackles for a loss to go along with those 12 sacks, 70 tackles from a defensive end, which is pretty high, knowing that he's making plays on the outside. What did you think of Jermaine Johnson's performance down in Mobile?
Yeah, he just looks like he's been playing in the NFL for 5 years. That guy is the most polished defensive end you'll see at the collegiate level. And it's crazy, like you said, he had to transfer from Georgia to get a starting role with how loaded Georgia was. But this guy, ideal NFL body type, 6'5", 260, long arms, that ideal for that position. And then just so consistent, with his technique. He's not the top end, upper echelon athletically. He's capped a little bit in that regard and what he brings to the table. Doesn't have the best bend to the outside, but he is in control, whether it's in the running game, like you said, as a pass rusher. He's dictating every interaction with what he does, and that just showed on tape. The offensive tackles he's going up against just didn't stand a chance. This guy was first snap to the last there, and he even dipped out of practice early. He was like, peace, 2 days practice. I did enough. All I need to do here, I'm going in the first round.
He raised his stock enough, and it was just, I turn on the tape, the Clemson game comes to mind. He beat the tackle on the outside, swiped the ball from Ugali, picked it up, ran it. It's an effortlessness that is there with Jermaine Johnson. He could be your first guy off the bus, even in the NFL, as an intimidating player. I want to hit one more position group, the offensive side of the ball. Who stood out to you at the Senior Bowl there that may have raised their stock?
Oof, that's a tough one. I think the biggest guy who stood out kind of head and shoulders above his position group was Trey Mcbride, the Colorado State tight end.
Yes.
And it was kind of billed as a talented tight end class. And I think there are a lot of like NFL-capable tight ends, but I don't think there's a lot of difference makers, like guys you would invest a real pick in to expect to then feature in your offense at the NFL level. Like there's guys who can be placeholders, and there's a lot of them in this class. But McBride looks like the only guy who it's like he can get open probably one-on-one. He can actually do things, be your first option in a play that you call. So he probably more so than, like I said, any other wide receiver, running back, or even quarterback there stood out as like that was the best guy at his position at the Senior Bowl.
Awesome. And I do want to pivot back to the edge class because we've been covering the draft for quite some time. Mm-hmm. This is the best edge class I've seen on paper. I want to hear if this is maybe, in just terms of depth, maybe not that top-level talent guy, but in terms of depth, you could probably have, 5 to 10 defensive ends drafted in the first round this year. I mean, it's incredible.
It is a very good edge class. I know what year was also a good edge class. Was it 19? The Bosa.
Oh, yeah.
Ferrell,
Nick
Josh
Bosa.
Allen, Brian Burns. That was a very good edge class, too. I think this one you're going to see 3 guys go, obviously at least 2 in the top 10 with Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau. And then George Karlaftis from Purdue, David Ajabo from Michigan, Jermaine Johnson, who we just touched on. All those guys are also locks for the first round. Probably even Trayvon Walker from Georgia.
Yeah.
You got a lot of guys who are going to go in the first round. I do think after Hutchinson and Thibodeau, I have like question marks for a lot of those guys. Like I don't think this is there are a ton of blue chip guys at any position in this draft class. I don't think it's super strong on the whole, but this one's loaded. I kind of like the value once you get towards the back end of the first round. That's where I'm going to be taking shots at this edge class, whether it is Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State, who we haven't even mentioned there.
Oba Mafe.
Boye Mafe from Minnesota. Like there's a lot of guys who are kind of in that mix at the back end of the first round that have the physical ability, have the body type, maybe not quite the elite production, but there's a lot to work with in this edge class.
And last question before I turn over to my man Jamal Madney. You're picking at the top. You have to take one edge rusher. It's Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson. Who are you going with and what?
I'm going with Aiden Hutchinson.
Ooh,
and it's not just that. It's not just like that he's been better on the football field already. It's like Aiden Hutchinson is himself an elite athlete. Like it's not deciding between a guy who's like good already, like a polished product, and a guy who could be an elite product. Like Aiden Hutchinson has everything you could want for an edge rusher to be then a perennial Pro Bowl All-Pro type of guy. He's not like limited athletically in what he can do. Yeah, Kayvon's probably a better projectable athlete to the edge position, has a more prototypical physical profile for the edge. But you're splitting hairs at that point when another guy is already a darn good athlete in Aiden Hutchinson. So I'll give me the guy who I think is more of a sure thing, because when you have the number 1 overall pick, you can't whiff. And the Jaguars know a thing or two about whiffing in the first round. So to me, Aiden Hutchinson would be the pick there if I'm holding that number 1.
love it.
The other position group that seems to be getting a lot of buzz is secondary. And so settle a debate for us, because this is one of the areas where Will and I diverge. And I sound like I'm sort of ordering off of a menu with this sentence, but I'm just going to say the sentence. Sauce or Stingley?
Stingley. I still believe in Stingley. Now, his tape the past 2 years is concerning. Like, no doubt in my mind. Like, the injury history, the lackadaisical plays on his tape that just, they weren't uncharacteristic on that LSU roster. A lot of guys were taking plays off. That was kind of why Coach O's not there anymore and why they fell off so hard after the 19 season. But from what he did as a freshman, you don't get worse. He was so special at such a young age. The physical tools are so immense that I'll chase that high end of what he could be. And not to say that Sauce can't be high-end cornerback 1 in the NFL. He definitely can, but I just think he's more of a limited player, whereas Stingley can be your track number 1 receiver, man corner for the foreseeable future, for the next decade. He can bring that skill set to the table. He has that capability. Whereas I think Sauce Gardner's more of just like a hold down one side, press at the line of scrimmage, more of your cover 3 type of cornerback, which obviously is still played a lot in the NFL, cover 3. So I do think that give me the guy who has the potential to be at the high end, and I think even Stingley's floor is still probably pretty high.
Awesome.
Other names in the secondary that are sort of jumping off. We've had deep discussions about Kyle Hamilton. Are there others that are sort of jumping off the page for you?
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton's a freak. That's
No two ways about it.
He's one of the safest dudes in the draft class. To me, he's like Isaiah Simmons if Isaiah Simmons could have still played safety. Like, he's like that smooth of an athlete that there's really no position I don't think he can play past defensive line on a football field. Like, he can play linebacker, he can play slot, he can play safety, he can play deep safety, he can play outside corner if you really wanted him to. He's just that level of an athlete. So that's a special dude. The other guy that I think deserves a little more hype and a little more credit, and I think is realistically like a top 10 type of talent, is Trev Mcduffie from
Washington.
Yes.
Washington quarterback. Trev
Yep.
McDuffie. He may not be size-wise. I think he's going to come in around like 5'10". So not going to tick that box for everyone, but he's 195 pounds, well-built dude at that size, and he is insanely good tackler, insanely physical for that size. Did not get tested at all at Washington, like shut down his side of the field. No one wanted to throw at him. I think he is that good of a prospect to be in the same air as a Sauce Gardner and a Derek Stingley. Now, obviously, you're going to lean those guys because of the physical, like
toolbox,
6'1 plus, 200 plus. That's matters in the NFL. But Trey McDuffie is a pretty damn good corner prospect in his own right.
That makes a lot of sense. And so we'll play a little game here. So I will give you a position group, and you give me your expert grade and anything else you'd like to share. So we'll start with kind of the positions we've talked about. Defensive line, grade.
It's got to be an A+, right?
So it's different. I think if you separate DT, I would give like a C-.
Whoa.
And then edge, I would give an A.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Like, I think that's there's a distinct difference. I don't like the DT class that much. I don't think there's too many starters available in this DT class. But edge, it is loaded.
Got it. And we'll go kind of further on the defense. Linebacker.
Linebacker, that's an A+. This is probably the best linebacker class I've seen since we started grading college at PFF. Like, I think there are 4 legitimate first-round possible talents, and I'm not even including Christian Harris, who I'm not a massive fan of, the Alabama linebacker. I think Nakobe Dean from Georgia, Devin Lloyd from Utah, Brian Asamoah from Oklahoma, and Leo Chanel from Wisconsin are all first-round type of linebackers. Now, TBD if they all go in the first round, but I am a big fan of those 4 guys, and they're all kind of 4 different types of linebackers and the skill set they bring to the table. So I do really like this linebacker class. Like I said, A+.
Fantastic. Secondary,
I think corner is around like a B+. I think after those 3 guys, I don't feel great about the corner class. The 3 guys we've already touched on. Safety is probably more like a B-. You got Kyle Hamilton, Lewis Seen from Georgia, Jaquan Brisker from Penn State. I like Jalen Petrie a lot from Baylor, but is he more of a slot cornerback? May not be a true safety. And that's kind of like your safety class. There's not a lot of guys after that.
and then we'll shift to the offensive side of the ball. Yeah. So why don't we talk offensive line?
Offensive line's probably in the A- range.
Okay.
I like the tackle class a lot. I think there's 3 guys going to go top 10 in Charles Cross, Evan Neal, and
Aquanu, I think his name is.
Aquanu,
yeah,
who we actually had talked to. It's a massive dude. He is one heck of a run blocker. I think all 3 of those guys go top 10. And then I really like the small school guys, and Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa, and Bernard Ryman from Central Michigan, who's one of my guys in the draft class. I think he's fantastic. Those guys are lock first-rounders as well. So I think tackle class is good. Tyler Linderbaum's probably the best center prospect we graded at PFF. But then after that, the interior of the offensive line class is kind of iffy, but I still do like this offensive line. There's going to be, and I think with it just kind of being a meh draft class as a whole, you're going to see an emphasis on O-line, D-line in this first round. You're going to see a ton of them because it's just a position that teams feel more comfortable with their evaluations on. You just get more one-on-one reps. You get more – the body types of the athletes that succeed at those positions are more easily recognizable that you're going to see a lot of trenches in this first round.
I want to pivot to the tight end group because they don't necessarily have that blue chip prospect like a Kyle Pitts was last year. But in terms of depth, we did the tight end breakdown in our pod. There could be 5 or 6 guys that have close to 36 catches next year, fresh off being a rookie. It's pretty impressive. You mentioned Trey Mcbride earlier. Our guy Greg Dulcich from LA, UCLA guy. Windermeyer, Kate Otten, Jeremy Rucker. You just go down the list, right? Jake Ferguson. Give me your thoughts on how deep this tight end class is and what would the grade you'd be.
Yeah, so the tight end class, it's it's tough, and you hit the nail on the head there. It's like you don't have Kyle Pitts. You don't have a guy that even could be up there because they're not, running a 4.6 or lower. Like a lot of these guys are just solid, not spectacular athletes. But there's probably 5 guys that you could start tomorrow and not feel bad about them starting. Like they can block in line, they can catch whatever's thrown their way, and they can kind of get open at the intermediate level, and they have big catch radiuses. So there's a lot of guys who are talented, but I'm not drafting anyone besides probably Trey McBride before the 4th round, just because the value. Like, what are you bringing to the table? Like you said, 36 catches. If that's a wide receiver, that's a horrible year.
Right.
So you call that a good year for a tight end, but by actual NFL moving the needle standards, that's nothing. So that's kind of how I feel about this tight end class.
That makes sense. And now, sort of the controversial topic, if you will, the quarterback class.
I don't like the quarterback class, man. It's like a C-. It's going to be the lowest we've ever ranked a QB on our draft board heading into the draft. The QB1, excuse me. Most years we've had a guy number 1 overall on the draft board. We take positional value into account. I think 17, I believe. 16 was the only year we didn't. It was the Trubisky year. Trubisky, Mahomes. Sean Watson. I think it was the only year we didn't have a quarterback number 1 overall on the draft board. This is going to be the second time that we do that, and it's not even going to be top 10. I don't want to take any of these guys even close to that. If you're saying the debate is like Malik Willis at pick, say 11 to Washington, versus I don't know who, Sam Howell in the 2nd round. You could take Howell in the 2nd round. I don't think they're that vastly different as prospects. They're flawed dudes with big arms, have some athleticism. It's going to matter a lot, the development, and you're really shooting fish in a barrel with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, that's a similar assessment that we've had on the pod for sure.
Yeah, and the classic reach for the quarterback, that's the position you reach for. But for my evaluation, I think Sam Howell's like a third round talent, effectively. What's the receiver class like for you? We got Drake London from USC, big name out there, but you also have guys like Jamison Williams, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. He's like a technician when it comes to route running. Where do you see this receiver class being as a grade?
It's solid. It's probably like a B+. I don't think any of them I would have a higher grade on than kind of the top 3 last year. So Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, and Jalen Waddle. Those 3 would have been wide receiver 1 in this class had they been in this class. But I really like Drake London. I really like Jamison Williams, and I really like Garrett Wilson. Those 3 guys think can be wide receiver 1s at the NFL level. I don't feel as certain about them as I did the last year's class. Like I said, all 3 of those guys last year, I'm like, they're wide receiver 1s. Don't even think about it too much. These guys, I think Drake London is probably the one I feel most certain will be. That guy's going to catch 100 balls dominant at some point because that's what he does. It's just, are they going to be deep balls? Probably not a ton. That's kind of not where he wins. Underneath, catch point stuff, that's where he wins. So I probably would have Drake London wide receiver 1 just because of that, but I think it's a strong class. I'd probably give it a B+ as a class as a wide receiver class.
B+, nice. I want to transition to Rams and Chargers. Just give me one position group you think that they should target as a team.
Chargers is defensive tackle, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Jerry Tillery is
been a bust.
He's an edge. He's just not big enough to hold up to double teams. He has a liability in the run game if you're sticking him inside. And he can make plays, but he just cannot play as many snaps as he's played. He played 900 snaps last year. And the guy's dead tired on half of them. You watch the tape, and just when he does absolutely nothing. I don't think he's a complete bust. There's still flashes on his tape, but man, he's not the guy they thought they were getting. He's not that every down defensive tackle they thought they were getting. So that'll go a long way for them. The Rams, that one's tough. It obviously is going to depend on. I would highlight wide receiver if obviously Robert Woods with his ACL tear, Odell Beckham not being back. But I think offensive line, Whitworth, this is probably it for him. Obviously, Boom probably takes over there, but then may not be able to re-sign. I'm blanking on the center's name right now. But
Brian Allen.
Allen. You might have issues on the offensive line, and that's so big to all they do offensively. And Sean McVay, the years that they've had bad offensive lines, that's kind of been the years they've had bad offense. So I think offensive line is where I'd highlight for the Rams, especially since you don't have a first-round pick. That's like interior offensive line's a position you can probably still find starters later on in the draft.
Love it, man. And I know we're going to just leave you with this last question. You're based in Cincy,
Yes.
but we got the Rams out here in Los Angeles. I got to get a prediction, Mike. Where are you going with this game, and who do you think is going to win?
So I picked Cincy straight up
Oh,
each of the
wow.
last 3 weeks. I picked them against the Chiefs, I picked them against the Titans, and I picked them against the Raiders to win outright. And I'm going to do it again. I think this defense gets slept on, and Joe Burrow's obviously like that dude. Like he's different cat. So I'm going Bengals. I don't think it's obviously going to be a tight game. I think if they do win, I think the only way it's a blowout is if the Rams win, honestly. But I'm excited. I really have no handle. I think they're very evenly matched in a lot of different ways. The biggest mismatch obviously favors the Rams, but like I said, Joe Burrow is what's tipping the scales for me.
Exactly. He's got that it factor. Mike Renner for PFF, thank you so much for
Thanks
coming
so
on,
much,
brother.
Mike. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.